Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy & Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
Welcome. Today on Turning Point, we have a very special guest, Bernhard Goetz. Bernie, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Let's get right into it. You have an intriguing story. People know Bernie and know you as the subway gunman.
Or vigilante, or whatever.
Vigilante,
or
right?
whatever.
So just to remind people, how many years ago was that?
That was in '84, so that was
84,
about
nice.
26 years, 27 years ago.
And you're still recognized, I'm sure, by people on the street?
Yes. Yeah.
You get more cheers or more jeers?
Oh, a lot more cheers. Well, the negativism has mostly disappeared. Today, the internet tends to dominate public opinion more than the media. So one internet article is worth more than a front-page article in the New York Times, because the New York Times article is only there for one day, whereas on the internet, it's there 365 days a year.
It's viral.
Oh, yes, and people all around the world. I think the internet's been a wonderful thing. And we don't have, you have much less media manipulation with the internet. 25 years ago, when the incident happened, we didn't have the internet. And you had a relatively small number of organizations controlled public information. The only information the public had access to was from professionals in the media. And not only that, that also gave these organizations, they had the ability to, they chose what stories would be covered and what would not. And today, all that has changed.
Yeah, it certainly has. Back in 1984, the reason we're here, the reason you were on the cover of Time magazine, the reason you've been on Shatner and every possible show I can imagine, front covers of everything, was because of an incident that happened in the subway. Four muggers, four thugs, walked up to you and start from there.
Oh, well, I think two were sitting actually at the time. They were playing around with each other, roughhousing, and two of them that were sitting stood up. They came over to my left. There were two on my right, combination sitting and standing at my right in different times. And of the two on my left, one of them just calmly said, "Give me $5." And as a result of that, I asked him to repeat what he said, and he repeated it, and I shot all four of them. I decided to shoot as many as I could, as quickly as I could. That was the best situation. I knew I had a 5-shot gun. I didn't think, actually, I'd be able to pull it off. You're not even planning that far ahead. But anyway, I'm proficient with a gun. I was raised with a gun. With guns in upstate New York, as all the other boys were.
Where upstate?
A farm about 10 miles outside of Rhinebeck. And in that part of the country, well, back in those days, I was in the 50s, we didn't have our first television until I was about 8 years old. And back then, the most popular programs were The Lone Ranger, Hopalong Cassidy. People learned values, and what the boys, basically, the game we played all day long, every day, was cowboys and Indians. And that's how you learn how to shoot a gun.
How much of your story was a hangover from the Bronson-type death wish, of the 70s? The lone man protecting himself.
I think very little. The Bronson movie, Death Wish, that expressed a lot of what was going on in the city. That was a controversial film in itself. The city, New York City back then, was crime-ridden. It's nothing like it is today. Young people can't understand it who weren't alive back then. But you would meet, every time you went out, you would at least see unpleasant, threatening characters. And if you took the subway, which I normally didn't, but I would take the subway when I wanted to.
How about now?
And oh, sure, of course, the subway today is great. You still have unpleasant experiences once in a while in the subway, but nothing back then. Back then, you were guaranteed every time you took the subway, you'd have at least one very unpleasant experience. And all that has changed. There's much less crime. I feel that AIDS did a lot to solve that crime. Crime at the time, I say things which are somewhat politically unacceptable sometimes.
Certainly that, blaming AIDS? Or
well, no. But New York City, at the time, we had a black welfare crime problem, and that is young males from welfare mothers were just doing a lot of crime. Today we have a corruption problem in the society, which we had it back then. We have it today. It's not racial. It's just white, and it's not black people, but statistically with black welfare people, we had a bad problem with that. And
you understand when you say this why people get upset about that, though.
Well, the society tiptoes around all kinds of issues. That's all changed today. We no longer have that problem today, and people are a little bit concerned about the Muslims and stuff today. I'm not. That was the issue that really had to be addressed. You had a crime problem that the political systems did not even know how to address. Koch didn't know what to do about it. You had a situation where a guy was being mugged in a closed, confined space, who it turns out was proficient with a gun. And you have to be able to get the gun out quickly. You have to be able to make sure the other guys don't take it from you, and you just shoot quickly and accurately. And I'm surprised. I don't feel they taught the police or even teach the police today how to shoot properly. I really don't like automatics in terms of guns. They give police automatics and they say, well, you have more firepower. You have 13 shots instead of 5 or 6. And it's not how many shots you fire, it's how many hit your target every time you pull a trigger.
We'll come back with more of the story from Bernhard Goetz.
You had irresponsible young women just popping out babies, and nobody asked to be born. These kids were victims, in a sense, of a bad environment.
Turning Point with Frank MacKay is brought to you by Smith & DeGroat Real Estate, serving the tri-state area since 1955, and CAI Insurance Solutions since 1961. On the web at www.conferenceny.com.
Today at Atlantic Honda, we decided to interview some real customers.
Family-oriented, and I really like the spot.
The price is fantastic. I wasn't even planning on getting a brand new car, and I wound up getting an 012.
Lease a 2012 Civic LX for just $89 a month. Lease a 2012 Accord for just $139 a month.
There's so much to choose from, it was hard, you know.
Got 10 cars to them.
Have a very good finance program.
This surpasses anything we've ever experienced in other Honda dealerships.
Visit AtlanticHonda.com.
Hi, I'm Kevin Jonas.
And I'm Danielle Jonas.
And we chose to have our wedding at Oheka Castle because it's an amazing place where dreams can definitely come true.
Oheka is a real-life castle built back in 1919 by Otto Hermann Kahn. During the Roaring Twenties, he entertained famous celebrities such as Charlie Chaplin and Enrico Caruso. Lots of cool stuff happens at Oheka Castle, like weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, sweet 16s, and historic mansion tours.
And this is Oheka Castle in Huntington, New York. So we love it there, and we cannot wait to go back.
We were dealing with a mountain of credit card debt, and we didn't know what to do.
Being in debt is a nightmare. The constant phone calls, the stress, and the damage to your credit report.
We felt trapped.
That's when I heard about Credit Guard of America.
They're a non-profit, licensed debt management company dedicated to getting people like us out of credit card debt.
If you have over $2,000 in credit card debt and are at least 30 days behind on your payments, then Credit Guard of America can help you.
They have a wide variety of programs that stop the harassment and reduce your monthly payments by up to 50%.
Call Credit Guard of America right now and get free of all credit card debt like we did.
I felt safe knowing that Credit Guard of America is a not-for-profit company.
We wanted a company that we could trust. And Credit Guard of America has helped thousands of Americans get out of credit card debt.
One phone call changed our financial future, and it can do the same for you.
Late fees and interest are putting you further in debt at this very moment. Do the smart thing and call Credit Guard of America right now.
Don't wait. Call immediately. It's time for a new beginning.
We're back on Turning Point. Our guest today, again, is Bernhard Goetz. Bernie, before the break, We were talking about a number of things, but let's get back to the shooting. Let's get back to the aftermath of the shooting. You ultimately turned yourself in.
Yes, in New Hampshire.
What happened between the shooting and New Hampshire?
Well, I drove up to New England, and I drove around during the Christmas holidays, all around New England, and it was beautiful at that time of year. And also such a change from New York City. At that time of year, you had, before Christmas, you had the school was out. You had a lot of grandparents out with their little toddler children going out doing their Christmas shopping. And so I was out in the country with clean air. And I was planning on just being out of the city for a few days. And I thought the whole thing would calm down. But the story just kept on getting bigger and bigger. It didn't calm down. I was in shock that the incident happened, and I think it was on the second or the third day after the incident, the front cover of Time magazine had a composite of the subway gunman. You know, so it was.
Were you getting the New York papers in New England?
I read one or two of the papers, and that was it. The first few days, I was shocked at the coverage that it would get, that, you know, some criminals had been shot, and it was made into it was a big story. And if anyone who you know who's been a crime victim in the past, you know, the media, there's so much of it, the media just would ignore it.
So you decided, let me go into the police station, let me turn myself in, before this gets out of hand, or what?
Well, I thought that would end the controversy. The situation had calmed down somewhat, even though, and it was totally, by 10 days after the incident, it was just, or a week afterwards, it was accepted that it was a mugging that went bad. The initial news reports on the subway train were that a person with a gun had shot 4 males and 2 females. 2 females fainted and were on the floor. And that got called. That was reported in the media for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then there was hysteria over that. People thought it was something like a McDonald's kind of shooting, where the person, you know, the gunman did a shooting and just shot innocent people at random and then ran away. And when it finally settled in that it was a mugging that went bad, I felt more comfortable with with turning myself in. And of course, that later backfired. If you have media which have an axe to grind and are basically not ethical with their reporting, and if you have a political and unethical district attorney, a person who's
Morgenthau.
Well, in this case, yes. He himself, he didn't handle the case. He gave it to a case to a young prosecutor who told him that you let me have the case, and I can convict this guy, and I can indict him, and then I can convict him. And by that time, this was a few months after the incident, the story had been turned around a lot. The district attorney gave the name of only 1 or 2 witnesses who couldn't contribute anything significant, who didn't see what happened prior to the shooting. And you had the guys who I shot, through their left-wing attorneys, were saying there was no mugging going on. And
Kunstler, Bill Kunstler?
Well, yeah, Kunstler was the main driving force. I feel one of the reasons, and just one, why there's the racial situation in New York City is much better now than it was 25 years ago, is that Bill Kunstler is no longer among us. He was what Al Sharpton used to do more of years ago, and does less of. But we also had at the time, we had the democratic politics in New York City. You had the governor of New York would play those kind of politics, and Sharpton actually helped the situation a lot. If you're involved in one of these things, and let's say you're a cop who's being accused of, oh, you shot a guy and he's black and this is racism, you're much better off having a guy like Sharpton criticizing you in the media than someone like a governor, like Governor Mario Cuomo, who's supposedly respectable, saying, well, you know, Goetz was wrong and everybody knows it.
Let's jump to the trial. We talked about Kunstler. What about his actions at the trial? And let's talk about the trial a little bit.
Kunstler. Kunstler wasn't involved in the trial.
Yeah, well, but he certainly fanned the flames.
Oh, well, during the trial, they would be making statements about this and that.
Sensationalism came from...
Yes, his position was that one of the guys who was shot was paralyzed in a wheelchair, and he was a mental vegetable, and he did nothing to provoke the situation. He was shot because he was black. Because I went out looking, according to Kunstler, I was out looking for trouble, and I shot guys with little or no justification.
You had supporters also.
Of course, far more supporters and detractors. But
Guardian Angels.
Yes.
Let's talk about them. They were
fine. They contributed money and moral support, and they said the guy was right. A lot of that, I would have almost, it became a political case. And, you know, the NRA said the guy is right, which, I mean, I support the NRA on most issues. I know that's not necessarily a popular issue in New York City and New York State. I feel people are responsible enough to have guns. And even though that would not have solved social problems in New York, at the time, I thought that if responsible people were given pistol permits and went through a basic training course, that would have gone a long way to solving the city's problems. And it would have, I feel the middle class, if a small percentage of the middle class was armed, that would have gone a long way to solving the problem of crime in the city. But I think now that I'm older, it would have been a bad solution. It would have been the rule.
You don't carry a gun anymore.
I haven't carried a gun for 10 or 15 years. The city is
Do you own one?
I don't talk about those kind of things, Frank.
Right. Fair enough. But let me wait. Let's just sum up something. What were you about the trial? What were you found guilty of? What were you
carrying a gun illegally?
That's it.
Well, yeah, I was charged with, I forget how many felonies. It was between 15 to 20 felonies, and I was convicted of the gun charge, and I wound up going to jail on that. The situation, again, that made things better, it was a social problem. You had irresponsible young women just popping out babies, and nobody asked to be born. These kids were victims, in a sense, of a bad environment, and AIDS just basically wiped out that section of the population.
We need to take a break. We'll come back with Bernhard Goetz in a couple of minutes.
If you're being prosecuted at the time, and you have not all the media, but some media, who are just biased against you, and if you have the district attorney putting misinformation out there, you really can't defend yourself.
Turning Point with Frank MacKay is brought to you by Atlantic Honda, New York's auto giant, and Herman Katz, Kanjimi & Klein, property tax attorneys and advisors.
Today at Atlantic Honda, we decided to interview some real customers.
Family-oriented, and I really like the spot.
The price is fantastic. I wasn't even planning on getting a brand new car, and I wound up getting no 12.
Lease a 2012 Civic LX for just $89 a month. Lease a 2012 Accord for just $139 a month.
There's so much to choose from, it was hard, you know.
Got 10 cars to them.
Have a very good finance program.
This surpasses anything we've ever experienced in other Honda dealerships.
Visit AtlanticHonda.com.
Hi, I'm Kevin Jonas.
And I'm Danielle Jonas.
And we chose to have our wedding at Oheka Castle because it's an amazing place where dreams can definitely come true.
Oheka is a real-life castle built back in 1919 by Otto Herman Kahn. During the Roaring '20s, he entertained famous celebrities such as Charlie Chaplin and Enrico Caruso. Lots of cool stuff happens at Oheka Castle, like weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, sweet 16s, and historic mansion tours.
And this is Oheka Castle in Huntington, New York. So we love it there, and we cannot wait to go back.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen more than 60% in the past 15 years? I'm Byron Udell, founder of AccuQuote. At AccuQuote, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of top-rated life insurance products from brand names you trust. Since 1986, we've helped hundreds of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $21 a month. We also have policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. So whether this is your first time buying life insurance or you want to see if you're paying too much, call today for your free quote.
Call 877-489-9639. That's 877-489-9639.
We're back on Turning Point with Bernhard Goetz. Bernie, you were talking about something, said something very controversial.
Yes, at the time, when I went to jail, we'd have visitors days in jail, and you'd have all these women, many women visiting these guys, and the guys were promiscuous. They believed they would be a good father, not by supporting the kid, but just if they would play with their kid, occasionally. And statistically, though, every one of those threatening thugs had a sister. People don't want to address it. What were their sisters doing? They were popping out babies. And also promiscuously with many different fathers. At the time AIDS came in, it just spread around AIDS, and a whole segment of the lower class in New York City, which demographically was reproducing at a very high rate, basically got stopped dead in its track by AIDS.
Jumping back to the trial, what's the turning point of that trial? What changed everything?
The witnesses on the train. You had the district, and again, if you're being prosecuted at the time, and you have not all the media, but some media who are just biased against you, and if you have the district attorney putting misinformation out there, you really can't defend yourself. You have no access to the public except through, I'd have to stoop to doing interviews with the Post. And even they wouldn't edit me fairly, but today with the internet, all that has changed. So by the time of the trial, when you had these guys claiming they were victims, what totally changed things at the trial were the witnesses who agreed with my later statements that all the shots happened very quickly. There was no body shot twice with "you don't look too bad, here's another." 5 shots were fired, 1 shot hit, 1 shot missed, and each of the other 4 shots hit somebody. And you had the witnesses on the train. Basically, a big defining issue was whether or not the guys, 2 of them came over to my left, and the group, in effect, surrounded me prior to the shooting. The guys who I shot were denying it. However, a number of witnesses on the train all said that, 2 came over to my left prior to the shooting. They didn't hear any of the conversation, even though the guys who I shot initially said they had asked me, they brought up the subject for $5 and stuff like that. And then later, some of them even told the police,
what did they say
yes,
exactly?
we were mugging the guy.
What did they say? Give us your money?
No, Troy Canty. He just said in a very calm voice, give me $5. It was kind of emotionless, like an instruction, give me $5.
Listen, that's an amazing story. It's absolutely compelling. We're going to need to take a break. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with the final 2 minutes with Bernhard Goetz.
I got off all 5 shots with my draw time easily in 1.6 seconds and probably 1.2 seconds, or maybe even a little shorter.
Turning Point is brought to you by PC Wealth Management of Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and the law firm of Duffy & Duffy, protecting the victims of medical error.
Hi, I'm Kevin Jonas.
And I'm Danielle Jonas.
And we chose to have our wedding at Oheka Castle because it's an amazing place where dreams can definitely come true.
Oheka is a real-life castle built back in 1919 by Otto Herman Kahn. During the Roaring '20s, he entertained famous celebrities such as Charlie Chaplin and Enrico Caruso. Lots of cool stuff happens at Oheka Castle, like weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, sweet 16s, and historic mansion tours.
And this is Oheka Castle in Huntington, New York. So we love it there, and we cannot wait to go back.
Today at Atlantic Honda, we decided to interview some real customers.
They're family-oriented, and I really like the spot.
The price is fantastic. I wasn't even planning on getting a brand new car, and I wound up getting an 012.
Lease a 2012 Civic LX for just $89 a month. Lease a 2012 Accord for just $139 a month.
There's so much to choose from, it was hard,
Got 10 cars to them.
Have a very good finance program.
This surpasses anything we've ever experienced in other Honda dealerships.
Visit AtlanticHonda.com.
Attention oxygen therapy users for this important message.
I lost my freedom the day I went on oxygen. Those tanks, they kept me from really enjoying my life.
Hi, I'm Mary, an oxygen expert here at Inogen. If you require supplemental oxygen, we can help you regain your freedom and independence. Meet the new Inogen One. It's a lightweight and easy-to-use portable oxygen concentrator that makes its own oxygen. It works just like your in-home concentrator, but it's much smaller and lighter. Take your independence back and do the things you love without worrying about running out of oxygen. The Inogen One is even approved for air travel.
I first got this Inogen One, I thought, this is a godsend. This is a real piece of art.
Call now and we'll send you this free information kit. If you have Medicare or other insurance, you may be eligible to reclaim your freedom with the Inogen One at little or no additional cost.
Call 1-866-880-4355 for your free no-obligation information kit. Call 1-866-880-4355 today.
We're back on Turning Point with Bernhard Goetz. Let's get back to the aftermath of the shooting.
It's an amazing experience that I think we're all wired for it. Some people are wired more than others. I suspect people from, they used to say that people from Norway and Sweden, they used to go berserk. I suspect they're more wired for that. The same type of reaction can come if they say if a woman with her baby, if they threaten her.
The adrenaline that comes down.
An adrenaline rush. And adrenaline is an extraordinary drug. I mean, it gives you tremendous short-term capabilities. Basically, see, in combat, what are you interested in combat? Motion. You're interested in speed and motion of what you're seeing. And with adrenaline, yes, it is.
It's an amazing take on
and
it.
then people who try to, to judge a person under those circumstances is ridiculous. It's like judging people in combat while you're firing shots, and you're firing as many shots as you can, as quickly as you can. I got off all 5 shots with my draw time easily in 1.6 seconds, and probably 1.2 seconds, or maybe even a little shorter. If you want to know how quickly I was shooting then, there is a tape of something which is very similar. That's when one of these idiots tried to shoot President Reagan. What was his guy's name? Hinckley, yes. And he had an automatic, and he fires off, I think, 3 or 4 shots. And blah, 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 blah. He had an automatic. You can shoot a revolver almost as quickly as an automatic. And the reason why a revolver is more accurate than an automatic in close combat shooting is it takes a few tenths of a second, at most, 0.2 seconds, to pull the trigger between shots. You need those few tenths of a seconds to aim. You're actually pulling the trigger. You pull the trigger on someone, and then you start pulling a trigger again, and you're lining up the gun on a person as you're pulling the trigger. An automatic shoots too quickly. That's why we have incidents where police start shooting, and you'll when you start panicking. And with the adrenaline, you can function under panic. But when people are police are doing panic shooting and they fire off all these shots, you don't have time to aim the gun. The gun, in fact, could do some kicking, these automatics, and that's why you have police can empty a gun and they don't hit anybody. And I'm astounded by it. And you learn when you shoot at a pistol range, one of the first things you learn is you have to aim at your target. To hit it. I'm actually not that. You put a little target, a human target, 25 feet in front of me. I have a hard time hitting it. I have to aim that gun carefully on him. When a person's 5 feet away, but you still have to. The gun has to be lined up on the target when the hammer comes down, and that's much harder to do with an automatic.
Thrilled to have you, Bernie. Thanks for being here, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.